My brother deserves it more. Those 5 words shaped my childhood. I cannot remember the first time my mother said them because she repeated them so often that they became part of my life. Every birthday, every school event, every small success ended the same way. My older brother stood in the center, smiling while everyone clapped. I stood behind him, pretending I did not care. On my 8th birthday, I asked, "Mom, can we have my favorite cake this year?" She smiled without looking at me. "Your brother doesn't like chocolate. We'll buy vanilla." "But, it's my birthday. You should understand. He's had a hard week." I nodded because arguing never changed anything. My father looked at me and said, "Don't make everything about yourself." I whispered, "Okay." My birthday became another celebration for my brother. That happened again and again. At school, I worked harder every year. I studied late, finished every assignment, and earned the highest grades in my class. When I ran home with my report card, I shouted, "Mom! Dad! I got first place." My mother barely looked up. "That's nice." I waited. She finally asked, "Did your brother eat dinner?" I lowered my report card. "I don't know. Go check on him." My father came home later. "Dad, I finished first in my class." He smiled for 1 second. "Good." Then he asked, "Your brother failed another math test. Can you help him?" "I wanted to tell you about. Your brother needs you." I swallowed my words. "Okay." At school award ceremonies, I always searched for my parents. Most years, their seat stayed empty. One afternoon my teacher walked over. "Your parents couldn't come?" I forced a smile. "They were busy." She handed me my certificate. "You should still be proud." "I am." I lied. When I reached home, my brother was showing everyone a participation trophy from a soccer game. My mother hugged him. "We're so proud of you." I quietly placed my academic award on the shelf. Nobody noticed. Nobody asked. Nobody cared. After enough disappointments, I stopped expecting anything. I learned that silence hurt less than hope. Whenever I wanted to speak, I asked myself one question. Will anyone listen? The answer was always no. One evening I heard my parents talking in the kitchen. My mother sighed. "I worry about our oldest. He needs us," my father answered. "What about me?" I asked as I walked in. They both looked surprised. Dad frowned. "What do you mean?" "I need you too." Mom touched my shoulder. "You're strong." "I don't want to be strong." "You understand things better than your brother." "So I don't matter?" "Don't say that." "Then why does everything belong to him?" Nobody answered. My father finally spoke. "Stop comparing yourself." I looked at both of them. "I'm not comparing. I'm asking." Dad walked away first. The conversation ended like every other one. Without answers. The only person who ever noticed the sadness behind my smile was my grandmother. She lived in a small house across town. Whenever I visited, she opened the door before I knocked. "My favorite visitor is here." I laughed. "You say that every time." "Because it's always true." She made tea and placed fresh cookies on the table. Then she looked into my eyes. "What happened?" "Nothing." She smiled gently. "Tell me the truth." I looked down. "I don't think Mom and Dad see me." She reached across the table and held my hand. "I see you." The words were simple. They almost made me cry. "I try so hard." "I know." "I get good grades." "I know." "I stay out of trouble." "I know." "Why isn't that enough?" She squeezed my hand. "Because their mistakes are not your fault." I stared at her. "What if they never change?" She was quiet for a moment. "Then you must never let their blindness become yours." "I don't understand." "One day you'll meet people who value you. Don't push them away because your parents failed to love you the right way." "You really believe that?" "I do." She smiled. "And I believe in you." Nobody had ever said those words to me before. Not my mother. Not my father. Only her. When I left that evening, she hugged me tightly. "Promise me something." "What?" "No matter how lonely you feel, never stop believing that your life has value." "I promise." Walking home, I realized something that frightened me. If I wanted to survive inside my own family, I had to expect nothing from them. No praise. No comfort. No celebration. Nothing. But as I opened the front door and heard my parents laughing with my brother, one small part of me still whispered the same impossible wish. Maybe tomorrow they would finally see me. Time moved forward, but nothing changed inside my house. I grew older, and so did my silence. By the time I finished high school, I already knew one truth. If I want a future, I whispered to myself one night, I have to build it alone. So I did. I studied before sunrise, worked after school, and spent weekends at a grocery store stocking shelves. One evening my manager smiled. "You're always the first one here. I need every hour I can get." "Saving for something?" "College." He nodded. "I hope you make it." "So do I." Months later, I opened my email in the school library. My hands shook. "Congratulations." I stopped breathing. I got in. My teacher, Professor Harris, happened to walk past. "You look like you've seen a ghost." "I received my acceptance letter." He smiled. "I knew you would. I also won a scholarship." "That's wonderful. I still need money for housing and books." "You'll find a way." "I have to." He placed a hand on my shoulder. "You've earned this opportunity." For the first time in years, I believed my future belonged to me. I worked even harder. Every paycheck went into a savings account. No vacations. No new clothes. No expensive meals. Every dollar had a purpose. One afternoon my grandmother asked, "How much have you saved?" "Enough to start my new life." "I'm proud of you. I just hope nothing goes wrong." She looked at me carefully. "Protect that money." "I will." I believed I meant it. A week before I was supposed to leave for college, I stopped by the bank. The woman behind the desk frowned. "Can I help you?" "I'd like to check my balance." She typed for a moment. Then she looked confused. "Your account is almost empty." I laughed nervously. "That can't be right." "I'm sorry, but the money was withdrawn yesterday." My stomach dropped. "By who?" She checked again. It was an authorized withdrawal. I raced home. My parents were sitting in the living room. "Where's my money?" I asked. My mother looked away. My father sighed. "We needed it." "For what?" "Your brother." I stared at them. "What do you mean?" "He got into some financial trouble." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "You took my college savings?" My father answered calmly. "His family. So am I. He needed help. I needed that money." Mom finally spoke. "You still have your scholarship. It doesn't cover everything. We'll figure something out." "No," I said. "You figured something out for him." Dad crossed his arms. "What's your tone?" "My tone?" My voice shook. "You stole everything I worked for." "We didn't steal it. It was my money. It stayed in the family." I laughed bitterly. "The family that forgets I exist." Mom's eyes filled with tears. "Don't be dramatic." "Dramatic? I worked for years. Your brother was desperate. And now I am." Dad stood. "You always think about yourself." I stared at him in disbelief. "I've spent my whole life thinking about him." Silence filled the room. Then my brother walked in. "What's going on?" I looked at him. "Did you know?" He shrugged. "Mom and Dad said they'd handle it. With my future." "You'll recover." Those 3 words broke something inside me. "You'll recover." I repeated them slowly. "You don't even feel guilty." "It wasn't my decision." "But you accepted the money." He didn't answer. I picked up my backpack. "I'm leaving." Mom called after me. "Where are you going?" "Somewhere people don't tell me my dreams matter less than someone else's mistakes." I walked straight to my grandmother's house. She opened the door. One look at my face was enough. "What happened?" "They took it." "What?" "My college money." She closed her eyes. "Oh, no. They gave it to him." She hugged me before I could stop the tears. "I tried so hard." "I know. I did everything right." "I know. Why am I always the one who loses?" She held my shoulders. "Because you've been carrying the weight of other people's choices." "I don't want to anymore." "You shouldn't." She disappeared into her bedroom. A few minutes later, she returned with a small sealed envelope. "Take this." "I can't." "Open it." Inside was cash. I looked up. Grandma. I've been saving a little from my pension every month. You need this. I need you to have a chance. Tears rolled down my face. I don't know how to thank you. You don't have to. I'll pay you back. She smiled. The only payment I want is seeing you build the life you deserve. I hugged her tightly. I won't waste this. I know you won't. As I prepared to leave, she stopped me at the door. I want you to remember something. What is it? She looked directly into my eyes. One day they'll remember your name only because they'll need something from you. Her words sounded impossible. They'll never come to me. She gave me a sad smile. They will. And when they do, don't forget how today felt. I slipped the envelope into my backpack. For the first time, I walked away from my family without looking back. But my grandmother's words followed me with every step, settling deep inside my heart where I knew I would never forget them. I left home before sunrise with one suitcase, my scholarship papers, and the envelope my grandmother had given me. Nobody stopped me. Nobody hugged me. Nobody said, "We'll miss you." I stood at the front door for a few seconds anyway. Maybe they'll come outside, I whispered. They didn't. I smiled sadly. Goodbye. The bus pulled away, and I watched my childhood disappear through the window. I wasn't crying because I was leaving. I was crying because nobody cared that I had. College wasn't easy. Classes were hard, rent was expensive, and every dollar mattered. One afternoon I counted the money in my wallet. $23, I sighed. That has to last until Friday. My roommate laughed. You always make it work. I don't have another choice. I studied during the day and worked nights at a small bookstore. Sometimes I slept only 4 hours. Sometimes even less. Professor Harris noticed. You look exhausted. I'll survive. You don't have to carry everything alone. I've been doing it my whole life. He looked at me for a moment. That's exactly why you should stop. His words stayed with me, but I didn't know how to follow them. One afternoon, I sat alone in the campus cafe. A girl walked over with 2 cups of coffee. Is this seat taken? No. She smiled. I'm Emma. I'm glad someone finally asked. She laughed. That's an unusual answer. I'm not used to people choosing to sit with me. Well, get used to it. She pushed one coffee toward me. You look like you need this. I probably do. Over the next few months, Emma became my closest friend. She asked questions nobody had ever asked before. What do you like? What do you mean? I mean your favorite movie, your favorite food, your dreams. I smiled awkwardly. I've never really thought about it. She frowned. Everyone thinks about those things. I spent most of my life thinking about what everyone else needed. She stayed quiet. Then she said softly, that makes me sad. It used to make me sad too. What changed? I got tired. She reached across the table. You deserve better. Those 3 words sounded familiar. My grandmother had once said something very close. For the first time in years, I believed them. After graduation, finding a job wasn't easy. I attended interview after interview. Finally, one company offered me an entry-level position. On my first day, my manager smiled. Welcome aboard. Thank you. I've heard good things about you. I'll work hard. I expect that. A cheerful woman walked over. Hi. I'm Sophia. I'm glad to meet you. You'll survive here. You sound very confident. She laughed. I've survived 5 years. I'll trust your experience. The work was difficult. Every mistake felt huge. Every success felt small. Still, I kept learning. One evening, my manager stopped beside my desk. Everyone else went home. I wanted to finish this report. You've already done enough. I can do better. He smiled. That's exactly why you'll succeed. Months passed. Then years. One Friday afternoon, my manager called me into his office. Sit down. I wondered if I had done something wrong. Instead, he handed me a letter. Congratulations. What is this? Your promotion. I stared at him. Really? You earned it. Thank you. No. He smiled. Thank yourself. That evening Emma insisted we celebrate. She raised her glass. To the hardest worker I know. I laughed. To good friends. She shook her head. No. Then to what? To the family you choose. I looked at her. What do you mean? Family isn't just blood. I know. It's the people who stay. Her words warmed something inside me. Months later, the company hired a business consultant named Daniel. He was older, calm, and impossible to impress. After one meeting he stopped me. Walk with me. I followed him. You ask smart questions. I try. You also apologize too much. I blinked. I do. Every other sentence. I never noticed. You expect people to be angry. I looked away. Sometimes. He nodded. Who taught you that? I didn't answer. He didn't push. Instead, he said, confidence isn't pretending you're perfect. What is it? It's believing you belong. I've never felt that. You will. Over the following year, Daniel became my mentor. Whenever I doubted myself, he challenged me. Why can't you lead this project? Someone else is probably better. Who? I don't know. So you're losing to an invisible person. I laughed. When you say it like that, it sounds ridiculous. Because it is. Little by little, I stopped apologizing for existing. Life finally became quieter, healthier, hopeful. The strangest part wasn't that my life improved. It was that my parents never noticed. No birthday calls. No holiday messages. No questions. Not even, how are you? At first I checked my phone every evening. Then every week. Eventually, I stopped checking. Emma asked one day, do you miss them? I miss the parents I wished I had. That's different. It is. What about the real ones? I thought carefully before answering. I stopped waiting for them. She smiled gently. I think that's the beginning of healing. As I unlocked the door to my small apartment that night, I looked around at everything I had earned with my own hands. It wasn't a perfect life. It wasn't a rich life. But it was mine. For the first time since I was a little boy standing alone at birthday parties, I wasn't living to be noticed. I was finally living for myself. 10 years earlier, I had walked away from my parents with one suitcase. Now I walked into my company's new headquarters holding the keys to everything I had built. I stopped in the lobby and smiled. I really did it. Sophia walked over, carrying a folder. Talking to yourself again? I laughed. Only when I need good advice. Then you're in trouble. Probably. She handed me the folder. Congratulations, boss. The new office is officially ours. I looked around. It still doesn't feel real. It should. We worked hard for this. She smiled. So did you. A few hours later, Daniel joined me in my office. He looked around before sitting down. Not bad. That's all you have to say? What were you expecting? Maybe a little excitement. He laughed. I'm proud of you. Thank you. But don't get comfortable. I knew that was coming. Success isn't reaching the top. What is it? Staying there. I nodded. I won't forget. Business kept growing. New clients arrived. New employees joined. Every problem became another lesson. One afternoon Emma stopped by my office carrying lunch. You skipped eating again. I was busy. You always say that. I mean it every time. She pushed the food toward me. Eat first. Work later. Yes, She smiled. I like hearing that. For the first time in my life, I felt secure. Not because of money. Because I had built something nobody could take away. Then something unexpected happened. My phone started ringing. Not from my parents. From relatives. My aunt called first. I always knew you'd become successful. I almost laughed. Really? Of course. I don't remember you visiting when I lived in that tiny apartment. She quickly changed the subject. We should have dinner sometime. I've been very busy. I understand. After she hung up, I shook my head. The next week an uncle called. We're proud of you. I appreciate that. You've always been the smart one. I stayed silent. Years ago, nobody had called me that. Emma noticed my expression. Bad news? Strange news. What happened? My relatives suddenly remember I exist. She smiled knowingly. Funny how success improves people's memory. It really does. One weekend I attended a business charity event. People shook my hand. They smiled for photographs. They congratulated me. While I was speaking with a client, I heard a familiar voice. Is that really you? I turned around. Olivia. My cousin smiled warmly. It's been forever. It has. She hugged me. You've changed. I hope that's a good thing. It is. We sat together after the event. She looked nervous. Can I ask you something? Of course. Have you talked to your parents? No. They haven't contacted you? Not once. She looked down. I was afraid you'd say that. What happened? She sighed. Things aren't good. What do you mean? Your brother keeps borrowing money. I stayed quiet. He promised every loan would fix everything. And? It never did. I looked out the window. I wish I could say I'm surprised. Your parents kept helping him. I know them. They sold their savings. I closed my eyes. They even borrowed from relatives. And he still didn't stop. She slowly shook her head. No. I felt an old ache returning. What about mom and dad? They're exhausted. Do they ever ask about me? Olivia hesitated. Be honest. Sometimes. What do they say? They wonder how you're doing. I laughed softly. They know my number. I know. They've always known. She reached across the table. I don't think they know how to face you. I spent years waiting for them. I'm sorry. So am I. Olivia looked at me carefully. Do you hate them? The question caught me off guard. I don't know. You don't sound angry. I'm tired. There's a difference. I carried anger for a long time. And now? Now I mostly feel sad. She nodded. I can understand that. Before leaving, she touched my arm. I think they're in more trouble than anyone realizes. I hope they figure it out. You wouldn't help? I didn't answer immediately. Instead, I asked, did they ever help me? She lowered her eyes. No. I learned to survive without them. She whispered, I wish things had been different. So do I. After Olivia left, I drove home in silence. That night I stood on my apartment balcony. The city lights stretched across the horizon. Years ago, I had dreamed about escaping my old life. Now I had everything I once wanted. A successful company. Loyal friends. People who respected me. Yet one question refused to leave my mind. Why did my success still feel incomplete whenever I thought about my family? I hated that they still had the power to hurt me without saying a single word. I whispered into the night, do I owe them anything? No answer came. Maybe there wasn't one. Maybe some question stayed unanswered forever. Just as I turned to go inside, my phone rang. The number on the screen froze me where I stood. It was my father. For the first time in almost 10 years. My hand trembled as I stared at the phone. I already knew that people who disappear for a decade never call just to ask how you've been. I stared at my phone until it almost stopped ringing. My father's name stayed on the screen. For 10 years, I had imagined this moment. I thought he might call to say he missed me. Maybe he wanted to apologize. Maybe he finally wanted to be my father. I answered. Hello? There was a long silence. Then I heard his voice. You answered. I did. You sound different. So do you. He cleared his throat. How have you been? I almost smiled. Is that why you called? Another silence followed. Finally he said, we need your help. There it was. Not I'm sorry. Not I miss you. Just 4 words. We need your help. I closed my eyes. What happened? It's your brother. What about him? He owes a lot of money. I've heard. The bank is taking the house. I leaned against the wall. I see. We don't know what to do. You've known my number for 10 years. I know. But today you remembered it. He didn't answer. Instead, he quietly said, can you come home? Before I could reply, I heard my mother crying. She took the phone. Please. I hadn't heard her voice in years. Mom. My son. The words sounded strange. She hadn't called me that in a very long time. Please help us. How are you? She became quiet. Then she whispered, we're scared. That's not what I asked. How am I, Mom? She started crying harder. I don't know. I laughed softly, though nothing felt funny. Exactly. We made mistakes. You skipped 10 years. I know. You missed birthdays. I know. You missed graduations. I know. You never called. She kept crying. I'm sorry. Those words should have meant something. Instead, they felt late. Very late. Dad took the phone back. Will you help? What exactly do you want? We need money. For the house. Yes. And for my brother? He has debts. How much? He told me the number. I stayed silent. It wasn't just a debt. It was years of terrible decisions. I don't understand. What? How did it get this bad? He kept saying one more loan would fix everything. And you believed him. He was our son. So was I. Silence filled the call again. Dad finally whispered, "You're right." I wasn't expecting that. The words almost caught me off guard. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything. But I do. No. I took a deep breath. You had 10 years. He sighed. I can't change the past. No. I can only ask for help now. After the call ended, I sat alone in my office. Every memory came rushing back. My 8th birthday. The missing school ceremonies. My empty savings account. My grandmother's hug. Her voice echoed inside my mind. One day they'll remember your name only because they'll need something from you. She had been right. Exactly right. Emma knocked on my office door. You look pale. My father called. Her eyes widened. After all these years? Yes. What did he want? Money. She sighed. I wish I were surprised. They're losing the house. She sat across from me. What are you thinking? I honestly don't know. Do you want to help? I don't know. Do you want revenge? I looked out the window. I wanted revenge years ago. And now? I just feel tired. She nodded. That's understandable. I keep asking myself the same question. What question? If I say no, what kind of person does that make me? And if you say yes, I might become the same person I used to be. The one who sacrificed everything. Exactly. Emma stayed quiet for a moment. Then she asked, what would your grandmother tell you? I smiled sadly. She'd tell me not to forget how they made me feel. And she'd remind me that protecting myself isn't selfish. That evening I visited my grandmother's grave. I placed fresh flowers beside her headstone. I wish you were here. The wind gently moved the trees. They finally called. I laughed quietly. You already knew they would. I stood there for several minutes. I don't know what to do. No answer came. But somehow I felt calmer. The next morning Daniel stopped by my office. You wanted to see me? Yes. I told him everything. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, he folded his hands. What do you owe them? I don't know. What do they owe you? I smiled bitterly. More than they could ever repay. So stop thinking about debt. What should I think about? The future. I don't understand. If you help them, will you respect yourself? I don't know. If you refuse, will you regret it? I don't know that either. He nodded. Then don't make today's decision based on yesterday's pain. I looked at him. What should I base it on? The person you want to become. His words stayed with me all day. By evening I finally picked up my phone. I called my father. He answered immediately. Hello? I'll come. Relief filled his voice. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. What do you mean? We're going to talk. Of course. And this time? I paused. This time I won't be the little boy who stayed silent because everyone else was louder. I ended the call before he could answer. As I looked at my reflection in the dark office window, I realized something had already changed. 10 years ago, I would have gone home hoping they would finally love me. Now I was going home to tell them the truth they had spent my entire life avoiding. Whatever happened next, I would never again say yes simply because they expected me to. I parked my car in front of the house where I had grown up. For a long moment, I couldn't move. The paint was fading. The garden was full of weeds. Even the front porch looked tired. "So this is what's left," I whispered. I walked to the door and knocked. My mother opened it. For a second, neither of us spoke. Then she quietly said, "You came." I said I would. She stepped aside. "Please come in." The house felt smaller than I remembered. My father stood beside the dining table. My brother sat on the couch, staring at his phone. Nobody smiled. Nobody knew how to begin. Dad finally broke the silence. "Thank you for coming." "I didn't come for thanks." Mom looked at me with watery eyes. "You've changed." "I had to." My brother shrugged. "So, are you here to help or lecture us?" I looked at him. "I'm here to tell the truth." He rolled his eyes. "This should be fun." I sat down across from all three of them. Dad folded his hands. "We've made mistakes." "I know. We always believed your brother just needed one more chance." "And how many chances did he get?" Nobody answered. I looked at my brother. "How many?" He crossed his arms. "I don't know." "I do." I looked back at my parents. "You gave him every chance." Mom whispered, "We thought he'd change. But he never had to." Dad sighed. "We were trying to save him." "You weren't saving him." "What do you mean?" "You were teaching him that someone else would always pay the price." The room became silent. My brother laughed. "So now everything is my fault." I met his eyes. "No." He looked surprised. "It's theirs too." Mom covered her mouth. I continued. "You protected him every time he failed." Dad looked down. "We thought we were helping." "You were helping him destroy himself." My brother stood up. "I've had bad luck." I shook my head. "No. You don't understand." "I understand perfectly. I made mistakes. And refused to learn from them." He pointed at me. "You think you're better than everyone." "No. I worked for what I have." "You got lucky." I laughed quietly. "Lucky? You don't know how hard my life has been." I stood up. "My life?" He frowned. "You never noticed my life." I turned toward my parents. "Did either of you know where I worked during college?" They stayed silent. "Did you know how many jobs I had?" No answer. "Did you know I skipped meals to pay rent?" Mom slowly shook her head. "No." "Did you know I was in the hospital once because I collapsed from exhaustion?" Her face turned pale. "What? You didn't know?" Dad whispered, "Why didn't you tell us?" I stared at him. "I stopped believing you wanted to know." Nobody spoke. The silence hurt more than shouting ever could. Mom finally cried. "We failed you." I nodded. "Yes." She reached toward me. "I'm so sorry." I stepped back. I've waited my whole life to hear those words. And now? Now they don't erase anything. Dad rubbed his face. "I thought you were strong." I was. "We believed you didn't need us." "I needed you every single day." His shoulders dropped. "I didn't see it." "I know." My brother interrupted. "So are we done blaming people?" I turned toward him. "You still don't understand." "What?" "This isn't about blame." "Then what is it?" "It's about responsibility." I said I made mistakes. "No. You made choices." He looked away. I reached into my briefcase. I brought something. My mother looked confused. "What is it?" I carefully removed a small bundle of old letters tied with a faded blue ribbon. "My grandmother wrote these to me." Mom gasped. "I remember those." I kept every one. I untied the ribbon and opened the first letter. "I want to read part of it." Nobody stopped me. I read aloud. "Never believe that being ignored means you have no value. Some people are too blind to see the light standing in front of them." My voice shook. I unfolded another letter. "The day will come when your kindness is stronger than their regret." Tears rolled down my mother's face. Dad couldn't look at me. I folded the letters carefully. She was the only person who believed in me. Mom whispered, "She tried to tell us." "I know." "We didn't listen." "I know." Dad looked at me with red eyes. "She warned us many times." "What did she say?" "She said we were losing you." I smiled sadly. She was right. We thought there would always be time. There wasn't. Mom cried harder. "I would give anything to change it." "You can't." I know. Dad finally met my eyes. I don't expect forgiveness. You shouldn't. I only want you to know that I finally understand. I looked around the room. The house that had once made me feel invisible no longer frightened me. For years I had believed I was the weakest person in this family because I was always the one left behind. Now I finally understood the truth. I had survived rejection. I had built a life from nothing. I had learned to stand without anyone holding my hand. The strongest person in this room had never been the one who received all the love. It had been the one who learned to live without it. My father slowly stood. I don't know how to fix what we broke. I looked at him calmly. You can't. My mother whispered, then what happens now? I took a slow breath. Now we talk about the future. My brother frowned. And the debts. I looked directly at him. That's exactly where this conversation is going next. The room fell silent again, but this time the silence belonged to me. For the first time in my life, everyone was finally listening. Nobody spoke after my last sentence. My brother broke the silence first. So, what's your plan? I looked at him. My plan isn't about saving your lifestyle. His face tightened. What does that mean? It means I'm here to help my parents survive. And me? You're responsible for yourself. He laughed. That's unbelievable. No, I said calmly. It's long overdue. My father rubbed his forehead. Please don't fight. I'm not fighting, I replied. I'm finally being honest. My mother wiped her eyes. We're all family. I nodded. Yes, we are. Then help us. I will. Relief appeared on her face. Then I finished my sentence. But not in the way you expect. Everyone stared at me. My brother leaned forward. What are you talking about? I opened my briefcase and placed several documents on the table. I met with a financial advisor before coming here. Dad looked confused. You already planned this. I knew you would ask me to pay everything. Mom whispered, you were right. I slid the papers toward them. The house will be sold. My mother gasped. No. It's the only realistic solution. Dad looked at the numbers. We've lived here for 30 years. I know. We can't lose it. You already lost it. The room became silent. I continued. The money from the sale will pay the legal debts. And the rest? Dad asked. I'll cover whatever remains for you and Mom. My brother smiled. I knew you'd do the right thing. I looked directly at him. I wasn't finished. His smile disappeared. I won't pay a single dollar of your personal debts. He slammed his hand on the table. What? You heard me. You have the money. That's not the point. It is to me. No. I folded my hands. This ends today. He stood up. So you're abandoning your own brother? I stayed seated. No. I'm refusing to protect you from your own choices. He pointed at me. You're selfish. I almost laughed. I spent half my life sacrificing for this family. That doesn't matter now. It matters more than ever. My mother stepped between us. Please, both of you. I looked at her. Mom, every time he made a mistake, who fixed it? She lowered her head. We did. And what happened? He kept making more. Exactly. Dad sighed deeply. You're right. My brother turned toward him. Dad. He looked exhausted. Your brother is telling the truth. You can't be serious. I am. You always helped me. And look where that brought us. My brother shook his head. So everyone is against me now. I answered quietly. No. We're asking you to grow up. He laughed bitterly. You think it's that easy? No. I know it's hard. So help me. I already am. How? By refusing to let you destroy yourself any further. He stared at me as if I had betrayed him. I hate you. The words didn't hurt the way they once would have. I simply nodded. I know. He grabbed his jacket. I'm leaving. Dad called after him. Where are you going? Anywhere but here. The front door slammed behind him. The house became quiet again. Mom sat down slowly. I don't recognize this family anymore. I looked at her gently. This is the first honest conversation we've ever had. She started crying again. I wish we had listened sooner. So do I. Dad picked up the documents once more. If we sell the house, you'll have enough to start over. In a smaller place. Yes. He nodded. I never imagined ending my life like this. I spoke softly. You aren't ending it. What do you mean? You're finally living with the truth. He looked at me for a long moment. I always believed protecting one child meant loving him. And now, I understand that real love sometimes says no. I smiled sadly. I wish someone had taught us that years ago. Mom reached for my hand. Why are you still helping us? I thought carefully before answering. Because you need a safe place to live. After everything we did. I'm helping you. She squeezed my hand. Thank you. But understand something. She nodded. I'm listening. This isn't another blank check. What do you mean? I won't rescue anyone again. Dad answered before she could. You shouldn't. If your son creates another disaster. He interrupted. We'll let him face it. I looked into his eyes. Can you really do that? He took a deep breath. We have to. For the first time, I believed him. The next morning, I met with the lawyer, the bank, and the real estate agent. By evening, everything was moving forward. The house would be sold legally. The debts connected to my parents would be settled. My brother's personal loans would remain his responsibility. When I returned to the house, Dad was sitting alone on the porch. He looked older than I remembered. He motioned for me to sit beside him. I owe you something. You don't owe me money. No. He looked at the sunset. I owe you the truth. I waited. When you were little, I always thought you were the strong one. I know. So I convinced myself you didn't need attention. You were wrong. I know. I needed my father. His voice broke. And I failed you. I looked at him quietly. You did. He nodded. I don't expect forgiveness. I've heard that before. This time I mean it. I believe you. He looked surprised. You do? Yes. But believing you isn't the same as forgetting. I understand. We sat there without speaking for several minutes. For the first time, the silence between us didn't feel empty. It felt honest. As I stood to leave, Dad asked one last question. Does this mean you've taken control of the family? I looked back at the house where I had once felt invisible. Then I shook my head. No. I've only taken control of my own life. For the first time since I was a child, nobody argued with me. Nobody demanded another sacrifice. Nobody expected me to carry a burden that wasn't mine. The balance of power had finally changed, not because I became stronger than everyone else, but because I finally learned the one word I had never been allowed to say. No, Colin. Several months passed after we sold the house. I helped my parents move into a small apartment. It wasn't fancy, but it was safe. My mother looked around the living room. I never thought would start over like this. I answered quietly, sometimes starting over is the only way forward. She nodded without arguing. For the first time, my parents respected the boundaries I had set. I paid their rent for a while and helped with basic expenses, but I never gave money to my brother. One afternoon, my father called. Your brother was arrested. I closed my eyes. What happened? He ignored the court orders. Now he has to face the consequences. I stayed silent. Dad sighed. I finally understand what you meant. What do you mean? We kept saving him from every mistake. We never let him learn. I tried to tell you. I know. Weeks later, I visited my parents. My mother handed me a cup of tea. I've been thinking about your childhood. I looked at her. I remember every birthday we missed, every award we ignored, every time we chose your brother. She started crying. I don't expect forgiveness. I know. But I wanted you to hear me say I'm sorry. My father looked at me with regret. We failed you as parents. I took a deep breath. You did. The room became quiet. Then I said, but carrying that pain forever won't change the past. My mother whispered, can you ever forgive us? I thought about my grandmother's words. I won't forget what happened. She lowered her head. But I don't want to spend the rest of my life hating you either. Tears filled her eyes. Thank you. I shook my head. This isn't for you. She looked confused. It's for me. I want peace. When I left the apartment that evening, I realized something important. I had spent years dreaming about revenge. But I never needed it. Life had already done what anger never could. My parents had lost the home they loved. My brother had finally faced the consequences of his own choices. And I had gained something far more valuable than revenge. I had gained freedom. As I drove home, I smiled for the first time in years. Forgiveness wasn't pretending the past never happened. It was choosing not to let the past decide who I would become. A few years passed. My life continued to grow. My company became stronger, my friends became my family, and peace slowly replaced the pain I had carried for so many years. One Sunday, my parents invited me to lunch. After we finished eating, my father looked at me. "I've wanted to ask you something." "What is it?" He took a deep breath. "After everything we did to you, why did you still help us?" My mother looked at me quietly. "I've wondered the same thing." I smiled gently. "You both think I helped because you deserved it." My father lowered his head. "Didn't you?" I shook my head. "No." They looked surprised. "I helped because I refused to become the kind of person your mistakes could turn me into." Neither of them spoke. I didn't want anger to control my life forever. My mother's eyes filled with tears. "So, you don't hate us?" "I hated what happened." I paused. "But I chose not to let that hate become my future." My father whispered, "We don't deserve your kindness." "Maybe not." "Then why?" "Because Grandma taught me something you never did." They listened carefully. "She taught me that kindness is strongest when it comes with wisdom and boundaries." My mother quietly cried. "We're proud of you." I smiled. That's all I ever wanted to hear. The next day, I visited my grandmother's grave. I placed fresh flowers beside her headstone. "You were right," I whispered. "They remembered my name when they needed one last favor." A gentle breeze moved through the trees. "I hope you'd be proud of me." I smiled through my tears. I didn't let bitterness win. As I walked back to my car, I looked at the sky one last time. My greatest victory was never making my parents regret losing me. It was building a life so full of love, peace, and purpose that their past choices could never steal my happiness again. That was the answer they never expected. And finally, it was the answer I had found for myself.